the Northwest home for paranormal. You're listening to U.S. Phenomenon with your host, Mario Magana.
The shadow of the 1962 World's Fair, the Space Needle. Good evening. I'm your host, Mario Magana. This is U.S. Phenomenon. As we get ready to wrap up the year ending in 2023, can you believe it? It's already here. 2023 just around the corner. Just hours away for some affiliates and those who take the show just a few days early as we get ready to wrap things up. It is that time of year to pay tribute to the godfather of paranormal radio. Tonight, we will honor our bell by doing the prediction show with two of my most fabulous guests and contributors to this radio show. One out of typically LA, but he's hanging out somewhere out, maybe with Joe Rogan, or maybe even, I don't know. Where are you in Texas right now, Michael Parker?
Dallas, Texas right now.
And then from the East Coast, also known as the Best Coast, our good friend Mark Jacobson joins us from somewhere in New York.
Brooklyn, New York, my friend.
Brooklyn. Brooklyn's in the house, yo. All right, is that time?
Yes.
Brooklyn's in the house.
In the street where it's pretty cold here, man.
You know what's quite funny is that when we talk about the show and how things have been for such, I mean, you guys have been contributing to the show for quite a long time, and
decades.
Yes.
Jesus. So yes,
like that,
it's been decades. If you would like to be a part of the prediction show, we will be taking texts during the show, or you can send your voice memos in 775-990-5151. Again, send those your predictions in. So thank you again for being a part of this show as we get ready to wrap things up for 2022 going into 2023. You know what's interesting to me, guys? You guys all had a great Christmas and holiday.
Did have a great Christmas.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
I didn't even celebrate Christmas, and I had a great Christmas.
See, that's how it is, man. It's the holiday season.
It's just holiday cheer. It's just
It's
just breaking out all over the place.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers. As
Yesterday, I took my daughters to some Korean grocery stores in the afternoon because they wanted to get some kind of tchotchkes and things. And even though it's a Korean grocery store and it was packed, we still had a lot of Christmas stuff in the front. So it was fun.
You know what's interesting, because they have some of those markets here in the Northwest, and Sophia won't go in. She's like, "It's Dad, it smells in there. I can't go in. It's because of the fish part." It's like, well, it's fresh fish, honey. She's like, "No, it's not fresh fish. It smells. It's not good fish."
I love those places. Those places are just the best, man. You feel like very cosmopolitan when you go in that smell.
Yep. All right, so as we get ready to wrap things up here. This might be one of my favorite times of the year because we get to do a show. Now, if you want to listen to the last year's prediction, we're not going to go through for the radio experience. You got to go and listen and download the podcast. We'll have that available via your favorite podcasting platform, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. Just search U.S. Phenomenon. So as we get things going here for 2023, guys.
I'm very upset about that, Mario.
Yeah.
Because, you're not going to go back and check to see if we had anything right or wrong.
Typically we would, but because we're under the kind of constraints of the radio experience, and that's really what we're doing here.
We're free of fact checkers here, Mario.
Or some kind of.
We don't really care about the facts anymore. We're just here to do conspiracies, my friend.
I'm going to get some really good juicy stuff going.
Wins that, all.
So I think I saw today somewhere on social media that they were running out of conspiracies because all the conspiracies were actually coming true. So I just laughed when I saw that one. I will have to put that up on the website.
There's been a lot of good conspiracies come along recently. One of those conspiracies I was surprised didn't take off was this whole thing about that guy Bankman-Fried. That seems like those guys got put in jail and they got indicted, and all that stuff with his parents happened in record time. What is that all about? I mean, his name is Bankman. I mean, gee, this is suspicious.
Well, yeah, I was not even aware of. I mean, I'm not a crypto guy. I mean, I've got a little bit of crypto, but like so little it doesn't even matter. I didn't even know about FTX until the whole thing fell apart because I don't watch the advertisements that apparently all these famous people were in. So I know about it. But I said right away when I read up on it, and partially in jest, but partially because I think it's true. It's like I just said, Sam Bankman-Fried did not kill himself. So when they ship him up to New York, and like the cameras go out and the guards fall asleep, and it all goes haywire all of a sudden, and dude just like has ligature marks on his neck.
Numbers on how long he's going to be at Rikers Island before he's hanging from the ceiling.
That's what I think.
Make a bet. I'm happy to go to the book.
Oh man,
we got that stuff in New York, Anyhow, so I think we're interrupting Mike Mario's show here.
Oh no. I mean, hey, by all means. I mean, we can. We're gonna get through all the questions. It's just, is it gonna make the radio experience, or is it gonna be in the podcast? So that's how we get down to things. Okay, so as we know, let's get things started for 2023 as we get ready to go into it. For some of our affiliates, KOSW already they went early to take the show, but for the rest of you guys who are taking the show, here we go. I mean, we're like hours away from midnight. So here we go. Number one. About 4 in 10 U.S. adults believe humanity is living in end times. Do you think the end is near for 2023, and why?
Who's going to do that first?
You can go right ahead, Mike.
Well, I think that we may have discussed this in the past, and so I think that
discuss this every single time.
Well, okay,
you got to get it right one of these times.
Well, I think I'm going to say first of all what I think I said before, and I do think this is true. I think that most cultures in any particular point in time believe that they are in the end times, because you compare it to, well, you can only compare your present to your own present and what you think you know about the past. But I will say this: I don't think it's the end times, but I think it's the end of certain things.
Well, there's no doubt that, I mean, there's been a lot of famous so-called end of the world. I mean, my favorite is October 22nd, 1844, where these guys, the Millerites, this guy, minister named Miller, did all the biblical arithmetic. I don't really understand that stuff, but he predicted October 22nd, 1844 would be the end of the world, and Jesus Christ would come back, and it would be just like the book of Revelations. But of course, it didn't really come to pass. And that day, from this day on, has been known as the Great Disappointment. And you can look it up.
No, I believe you. That's interesting.
And the thing that's interesting about that is that out of that meeting of those people that were there, there were hundreds of thousands of people there. It wasn't like 25 people who were just out of their minds. I mean, it was an enormous thing. It was before TV. They actually drew a real good crowd here to someplace in upstate New York where a lot of this stuff happened. And so out of that meeting came the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Shakers and the Seventh-day Adventists and a bunch of different Christian sects and organizations, because they just met and they had like-minded stuff. So the world didn't end, but they were able to move on, which I guess is partially all about this idea that things are going to be over soon. What's really going to be over is your life. That's it.
Right.
Sooner or later, you're going to die. That's for sure. We're not going to really argue about that. And I think that that's probably why the book of Revelations is the most popular book in the Bible, which has been in and out of the Bible several times, depending on who the Pope was. It's the 66th book of the 66th book, New and Old Testament. So, but it's politically connected, obviously, as you can see today, all over the place. I don't think the world's coming. I think we'll be able to do this show next year because the world will not come to an end. That's my prediction.
Spoiler alert. Back next year.
That's really good, because I don't think any of us want to be gone. No. Most Americans who do not have a college degree seem to think or lean towards more that the world will be coming to an end, or they believe likely humanity is approaching the end. Americans with obviously with a higher education, a college degree, not so much. So again, depending on where you lie, more Republicans as well, maybe independent leaning. Democrats are more of that hippie, like, yeah, nah, it's not coming to an end. You know, as my dad would say, the world comes to an end when you die. Spoiler alert.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I do think that we are in a transitional time, and so I'm not trying to be enigmatic, but we could blow the whole hour on this, but I don't think it's the end times, but I do think things are changing.
Well, things are always changing. Things do seem to be changing a little quicker.
Yes.
But then again, all times seem to be. I mean, like, if you compare this to the 20th century, I mean, 1923. So in the next 5 years before was World War One, 10 years before, and then in 15 years later is going to be World War II. That's a lot more change than now, but people always believe that the world is is changing fast.
One last thing that just came to me while Mark said that is, like, COVID scared a lot of people. So a lot of people probably thought, well, this is clearly a sign of a pestilence or something like that. And then, you roll out some monkeypox, and then you roll out some camel virus and whatever the virus of the week is. And it's like, it's all here.
We should not be laughing about end times right now.
I know. No.
But
anyway.
Just throwing a couple things, throw this in there. Let me throw that. And
I want to sell my house. If you have any kind of inside information about this, I would like to sell my house here. It's worth a little bit of money.
So that might be the time.
What's interesting before we go on,
worth anything. I mean,
or maybe wait till spring. If we get that far, then I think it's better to sell homes in warm weather. So
I agree with you about that.
Yeah. What as we all tongue in cheek and laugh about this, it's one thing to say that I lost my train of thought because I had something that was really captivating, but clearly my train of thought just went, I don't know where the hell I was going with that. Anyhow, yeah, it left. So that's probably the brain fog. Oh, probably people are scared crapless. I mean, people are scared out of their wits' end right now with this trifecta, and we're not talking about horse racing. The RSV, a little, COVID, the flu, and it was a nice heated contention conversation at the dinner table at the Casa Magana over here, talking about who's getting jabbed and who's not. I was like, oh boy, here we go. I mean, still to this day, we're still having, so even in the Casa de Magana, still everyone's like, so, someone had a cough. My brother was being respectful, wearing a mask, and sister's like, why are you wearing a mask? Take that stupid thing off. It's the whole thing. So people do what you got to do. But yes, again, people are definitely scared right now, even with the trifecta running around there, RSV, flu, and
I have noticed that, I go on the New York City subway quite often, and that's a good barometer to see how upset people. I mean, this is obviously New York City is a different kind of place than most. But I mean, when you go down there, there's just a lot of people there, and then, like, I'd say about 6 months, 8 months ago, there were very few people wearing masks, and now it's come back.
Yeah.
It's not like anybody is telling them to do it, so they're just doing it.
Yeah. Number two, do we feel like with politics being so polarizing right now, do we think the U.S. will begin to see a civil war?
I'll let Mark start on that.
Yeah.
I just don't. It doesn't make any sense, I mean, it won't be good for anybody. So why would anybody really do it? I mean, it's one thing. Another thing to shoot your mouth off on the radio or something like that, or to your buddies. But
right.
You think that people are going to actually pick up weapons and start shooting? Well, who are they going to be shooting at? I mean, how do they get supposed to tell who the enemy is? I don't see. I mean, back in the last time they had a civil war, you were either in the gray army or the blue army. You knew who to shoot at. Now, right. What are you supposed to do? I mean, people agree with a lot of people about some things, but they don't agree with them about everything. So at a certain point, how are you going to figure out who the enemy is? I don't think that's I think that's a non-starter. I think it's just going to be a lot more screaming and yelling.
I tend to agree with that. I don't think there'll be a civil war either. I think that it's these days, and here at my sister's house, we had some rather heated discussions last night as well on these subjects, and they think I'm kind of the wild and crazy one.
Which side?
Yeah, and it's like they think, "Wow, you used to be a punk rock guy. What's going on here?"
Wow.
But I don't think there will be a civil war. I think that what will happen is things will just continue to be more fractured. And I wrote down some notes, but I'm just going to tell you honestly what I think. I think that more people will move out of certain states into other states. So Tennessee, Texas, Florida, Idaho, states like that are going to get a lot of the people who don't want to be in especially major urban cities anymore, like California and in New York or Chicago or what have you. They're going to move to those states in the efforts to try to retain what they view as a traditional lifestyle and maintain their traditional values. I do think there will be continued unrest, and how that's addressed, I think, is unfair, because if you look at all the things that happened in the wake of George Floyd, there was just massive unrest, massive damage. We were all worried about COVID until that happened, and then everybody was free to go back in the streets. But it wasn't, they didn't really do anything about it. Yet everybody screams bloody murder about the January 6th thing and beats this thing to death day in and day out. So this kind of thing, I think justice gets applied unfairly. I don't think there will be a civil war. If there is a civil war, it will be instigated. And I would say don't fight.
Well, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, there's just, it's a no benefit for anybody situation.
100%.
So, yeah, I wouldn't jump into that pool too quickly. Not at all. Besides, as I said, just because I don't agree with people doesn't mean I don't like them.
Same here.
So we have a disagreement. Who cares? I mean, that's what being a human being is all about.
And that's what's weird. I think most of us are in
most of us opinion about abortion or guns or something like that. I mean, it's just not. I don't think sane people do that kind of thing.
Right. I think most people are in the middle. I think it's the noisy extremes that get all the press.
On that same note, today I heard someone talk on the radio asking that we get rid of the college electoral and go to the popular vote. Do you guys think that that's we should go that direction?
I do not.
No.
Why do you think that?
It's mob rule. So there's less of them. There's less of him out there.
My feeling about that is the electoral college makes my vote completely irrelevant because nobody campaigns here because they just assume the liberals are going to win, right? The Democrats, just like certain places,
California,
around, and so it's disenfranchising. So that's my complaint about the electoral college. I don't think that people get to have, it's not one man, one vote, or one person, one vote. Right. It's just not right. So therefore, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. They can come up with some kind of formula. People are not stupid. They can do this kind of thing. I just don't think that. I think it's just, I'm so bored of this battleground state and all this kind of stuff. It's just like more smut on the news as far as I can see. So if I had to choose, I'd go for the popular vote.
And if I had to choose, I would have no mail-in ballots. I would have strict same day. You vote with a paper ballot. You got to have an ID. And I don't think that's asking too much. If I want to buy a drink, if I want to drive a car, if I want to get into a concert or board a plane, I have to show ID. So everybody's got to show up on the day of voting. You can apply for an advance mail-out ballot, but don't just send out a whole bunch of ballots into the atmosphere. Don't make anybody show any ID and then spend 2 or 3 weeks counting them, because this is the 21st century, 22nd year of that, and we're taking weeks long to buy. I'm sorry, I don't believe in that.
It is amazing how long they take to count the votes.
And
how many votes they actually counted back in the day when they were short by 2 hours later.
Mark,
But
I have friends who are very.
I rebut what you just said, Mike, by one thing. See, that's true. I mean, yeah, if you want to have voting all on one day, the least they could do is give you that day off from work, right? Which they don't do.
Right.
And that is they give you the day off from work so you can go shopping. Why can't you get a day off from work so you can go vote if it's supposed to be so important,
Maybe they just one of those
Nobody
holiday.
ever mentions that,
Well, there's a lot of people, and very, very intelligent people that I know. They've given up on this. They don't think that. One of my friends, I'm not going to say his name because he may not be one mentioned, but he said this very publicly many times, and he is a public figure. But he says voting is fake. He no longer believes that any of this is for real, and I'm hard pressed. I didn't want to believe that, and I'm hard pressed to argue with it at this point. So the Electoral College, I'm not as fussed about that as just making the election process itself transparent and not making people cynical or pessimistic about even the idea of voting.
I think people should vote. I mean,
I think so too, but
should go anyhow. I mean, even if they think it's fake, they should go.
So do I hear someone say that you think
what are we going to do with that then if you don't go?
Are we talking like, are we close? Are you saying that this country is now being ruled by some like a secret society? Is that what am I getting at that with on the other side, or like because they're moving votes? Is that what's going on?
I'll let Mike address that.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is like I would just like to have transparency in our actual voting process. And Jim Marrs, who many of your listeners will be very well aware of,
right,
an astute journalist, a great journalist. He wrote the definitive JFK book, in my opinion, back in the day.
He's a very entertaining author.
What's that?
He's a very entertaining author.
Yeah, and he was a wonderful man too. I had the pleasure of meeting him and hanging out with him a few different times. But he said this back in 2006, and I agree. It's like, no, paper ballots. Keep it simple, stupid. Paper ballots, no shenanigans. Forget about a bazillion mail-in ballots and all this other nonsense. Show your ID, paper trail. That's it. Not complex.
As we get close to wrapping things up from the first half of the show, we will come back and continue with our second half with more predictions. Maybe we'll burn through some of these a little bit quicker. We'll be back. You're listening to US Phenomenon.
Does that mean we're going too slow?
Well, no, I don't think we're going too slow. I didn't get through all five. So I'll pick up from where we left off and we'll just go from there.
And Mari, feel free to steer us because me and Mark can talk all day and I'm thoroughly enjoying this.
That's good. That's fine.
We got I can't tell which one of us is the Harlem Globetrotters and which one is the Washington Generals, but
I told my dad, it's like I told him about all you guys. I said, we have a blast on this thing. And I almost feel like it's reality TV because like all three of us agree, I think, more than we disagree, but it's like we do have a role that we have to play. And I'm not trying to be disingenuous, but it's you know what I'm saying?
Obviously get along.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the lefty and you're the righty. I mean,
right.
I get it.
And I'm not hard right at all. It's like I would
hey, man,
more independent
doesn't matter to me,
I would do some ayahuasca tomorrow. So, that's where I'm coming from.
Does ayahuasca actually, I met this guy the other day and I was purchasing certain substances.
Yeah, you are.
Legal, they can't do anything to me. Yeah. So in any event, he said that he had these other things and he would give them to me for free because he felt that all psychedelics should be free.
Well, that's interesting. Mario, that'd be a good topic for a show because I'm very interested in this subject at some point if you ever want to do it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well,
it's definitely a big issue. It's a big issue. It's a coming issue anyhow.
And I'm pro.
Now you're starting to get this, just straight corporate medical people saying things like, microdosing with, magic mushrooms, which might be good for you. I mean, you would never hear that 5 years ago.
I'm on board.
Did you?
Yeah, me too.
What about? Have you guys heard about nutmeg? You have a really.
What is nutmeg supposed to do for you?
Supposed to take you to a horrible trip.
I think I've heard that. I don't know right off the bat. I think I've heard that before.
I tell you, man.
I didn't mean to derail things, but
I'm older than you guys, and I remember when people used to say that banana peels get you.
Oh, I remember that, Mark. Mark, I don't think you and I are that different in age. Actually, I'm 60.
I'm going to be 75 in a
Okay.
couple of months, so that's a fair amount.
Yeah. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Don't beat up on me. I'm an old guy. Don't beat up on me. I'm an old guy.
We're not. You're fun people.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to U.S. Phenomenon as we pay tribute to what has something that started long ago on another conspiracy radio show by, I like to call him the Godfather. There are other people that may not call him the Godfather of conspiracy radio, but Art Bell did a prediction show back in the day, and he would have people call in, and we have one here now. Let's see if we can pull this up. It came in while we were on break, and let's see if I can get this thing dialed in here. Let's see if I can get this thing to play here, guys. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if I can play this thing here. Let's see here. Let's see. All right, come on, guy. Let's play. Come on. Is it playing? Oh, maybe it's playing through the speaker here. Let's see. It's not coming through the. There we go. There we go. Let's see.
From Enumclaw. I'm from Enumclaw. I am a amateur volcanologist, and I've been doing some research, and I have a prediction. I gotta get it off my chest. I gotta get it over to you here, man. And let me tell you something, man. Mount Rainier. This is my prediction for 2023. Mount Rainier is going to have a premature replication. That's right. It's going to erupt prematurely, and it's going to be kind of underwhelming. It means it's going to be safer for all of us here, but it's going to be a premature replication. It's going to come. It's going to come pretty hard.
Well, okay. Now, I don't know that that's a real prediction.
Well, where is this mountain he's talking about? Do
you think he was serious? I mean, because I was all in for a minute. He said volcanology. I'm like, I'm looking at
volcanoes. That's no joke, man.
Sure,
are no joke. And as Art Bell would do, he would sniff them out. Okay, so. Whoever that was from Enumclaw, thank you for trying to predict. But look, there's no eruption. There's nothing going on with Mount Rainier right now. It's dormant. So he's predicting that I think he was pulling our legs there. So
is Mount Rainier even a volcano?
Yes, it is.
Extinct volcano.
It's a stratovolcano.
Not so extinct.
The reason that I was interested in it is because, I mean, I'm not trying to do a plug here, but like on my show, we've talked a lot about volcanoes lately, and clearly there was the one on the Big Island, and there were a couple of minor earthquakes in Northern California. Like, well, actually, I mean, one of them was like 6.4 or something the other day. So geothermal activity is happening all the time, and
the ring of fire.
Yeah, and I think that people underplay what volcanoes actually do, not just to the ground and that magma and all that, but what they put into the air, and they heat ocean currents too, so they can change weather.
I will tell you this. I think it was, we did a show with a guy who, I forget the guy's name, but he came on and he talked about the Osceola mud flow out of Mount Rainier. This happened like 5,800 years ago. And Mount Rainier is 14,004 feet. And 1,000 feet of that, it was 1,000 feet taller, and 1,000 feet of that mountain turned into liquid and just came down and made the Enumclaw Plateau where that gentleman lives. So he would be gone, and filled in most of the valley going through Puyallup, Orting, Tacoma, through the Puyallup River, and that area down by the Tacoma Dome. For those who are familiar with that area, the tide flats down there were pocks. The land wasn't fully shaped in, and there were a lot of holes and a lot of little lakes. So what happened was that mud flow came in and filled in all of the dirt, the mud just filled in all these little holes, giving such smooth land. So down there, very rich, down in the Puyallup Valley, Orting, Now those areas are very heavily populated. And so something like that happens would be quite devastating.
I mean, people they buy places by the beach and then they get flooded. I mean, and then they're completely surprised. I mean, what is that?
Right.
I mean, it's kind of useful to know a little bit about geology before you,
100%.
you know, I mean, it's not geology. I don't think is really on the spectrum of like open for conspiracy stuff.
Right.
It sort of is, you know. So, yeah, I mean, these guys actually know a lot about when these volcanic things are going to happen. I mean, they're not always right, but they do.
They
know.
did, and I know that they have that mountain
Do
well monitored.
So your buddy, when did he send that recording or make that call?
He called in just a few minutes ago.
Because we're all going to be like,
because
if this happens, we're all going to be like, oh,
Yeah, right.
yeah, the window. It's not that far from you, Mario, right?
No, it's not very far from me at all. I am on a hill on a ridge. So I will probably have ash and plume, but if you're anywhere near that mountain, Bonnie Lake, you know, all these areas down in the south end, Orting, Puyallup, Tacoma, Kent, Tukwila, all those areas will be affected by that volcano. You know, as we talked about earlier about COVID and what, you know, RSV and whatever else has been out there running around, the life expectancy has fallen, according to the CDC, for the first time since 1996 due to COVID and drug overdoses. All right, guys, is this going to be a trend now? Are we like, is human life expectancy is going to continue to plummet and go down? Are we not going to be able to recover from this with the COVIDs and the drug overdoses of the world? What are we seeing for 2023? Are we human life going to go expectancy going to go back up, or you guys think it's going back down? Going to stay there as a new trend?
It depends
that
on
was
how
just
much
for the
you eat at McDonald's, isn't it? I mean,
people are overdosing and dying of obviously COVID and whatnot.
That was for the U.S., not for the globe, right?
No, that's for U.S.
well,
Then
U.S. numbers definitely going down. I mean, if you want to believe
Agreed.
them, which I do, I kind of believe these numbers. But you know, on the other hand, an amazing amount of people seem to be living to be 90 and 100 and all kinds of stuff like that. So, but that's kind of apocryphal. I mean, a lot of this has to do with socioeconomic conditions. I mean, I hate to sound like a liberal dude here, but I mean, these things really do affect people's life expectancies.
big time.
So
I was talking to my family because they were asking me what the show's about, and we were talking about some of your questions, and this was the one that was kind of interested everybody the most. And fentanyl is a thing, man, and we've got a lot of it, and it kills people very quickly. And also when you have something like COVID and you have economic issues, you have an increase of deaths of despair, alcohol, drugs, what have you. And yeah, we don't eat that healthy as a nation. I mean, we have access to so many things very easily. So I don't like saying it, but yeah, I think that continues, at least in the US.
Wow. All right.
yeah, I mean, I would agree. And sadly speaking, you know, because I'm up to that number. So,
Well, I mean, it's so apparent. But even like as you guys are talking about, it's not that relatively easy if you're in an economic hardship where you can't go to a whole paycheck and purchase organic food or healthier food. It's cheaper to buy crappy food, you know. So it's not like you can get yourself out of that hole if you're in a social economic, you know, hardship, I guess.
have you been to a fast food restaurant recently? You walk out of there, you already spent $30. It's not like
If you got the
No,
McDonald's
that's true.
app,
That's
not
true.
if you got the McDonald's app.
you know, it's
Yeah, you're right.
things are just expensive these days, and you
Yes.
know, bad food and good food, the price has gone up for both. You know,
And the other thing is, people are I fall into this trap. For me and the wife, it's like you work all day, you have a glass of wine at the end of the day, and you know, some hummus and pita chips and olives or whatever. Now, what are we going to have for dinner? And you're like, well, I'm too tired to actually cook dinner or whatever. So a lot of it is just that wheel of day in and day out. So you end up not really eating as well as you should because you're tired or whatever. So I'm not trying to make excuses for me or anybody else, but
more exercise, they should do a lot of things if they want to keep on living longer. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I mean, medical science does work to keep you alive longer, but I don't, to what end, I'm not exactly sure, you know, because what could be, I mean, think about it. Is it better to die when you're 82 and moderately healthy than to hang on to be 92 when you're sick for the last 7 or 8 years of your life? I mean, I don't know. Take your pick.
Well, if according to you guys, there's no such thing. You think it's the world, and once you die, that's it. So I'm riding this till the wheels fall off.
I hear you, brother. I'm with you. It's like, and I do believe that there's something afterwards. I don't know what it is, but I don't want to die anytime soon. But our neighbors to the north in Canada, actually in March or April, right now, one of the things they're talking about is medical assisted. It's MAID, medical assisted. And essentially, they're helping you commit suicide, which in the past was only for people with terminally ill situations, and now they're moving towards including mental illness in that, which I don't think is the right thing to do, because if you're mentally, if you have a mental illness, you're not necessarily in the right state of mind to make those decisions about yourself. But I find this interesting because I think if they do it there, we will mimic that here, perhaps. And that has to do with economics. So some people are like, well, my gosh, I'm sick. I don't have time. I don't have the money to be doing all this. So maybe the easy way out is a medically assisted help in dying. So not to be a huge bummer, but it is a question. And
wow, we're just
there's a lot of, I mean, I don't know where you are. I think if you're living in LA, I kind of know what it's like there. But I mean, the amount of, you know, obviously insane people walking around has definitely gone up.
Yes.
I mean, maybe it's just my imagination, but you know, you might agree with me. But I mean, just people that just cannot function in any kind of normal situation, and they're running around, and nobody knows what to do about it, and it's this massive crisis. You don't want to really round them up. What are you going to do with them? On the other hand, you know, you're trying to live a normal life, and then I don't know. It's a real problem. Yeah. Really that would be another one of these kind of things where the right-minded people, we get together instead of arguing and think about how to deal with this kind of stuff.
One last thing on this, because you spurred a thought. So the way I'm understanding this, I've just had a couple of conversations about this from Canadians telling me about it, is the people that would be able to do this would not be the people that you're talking about necessarily, but they would be people who more had, because a person that's got deep mental issues living on the streets is not going to be able to have this conversation with the medical establishment in order to get that
absolutely
done. But people that might just be in the dumps for a few years and upset about this. I had this one guy on, and he was saying, listen, if this would have been available in 2010, I'd be dead now, because I was in a very dark place in my life. And I had an illness. I was depressed, So I know we're getting off track, but it's an interesting question.
Getting off track when you're talking about life expectancy. I mean, how many people put a gun to their head, and in that split second before you pull the trigger, and the bullet enters your head, you change your mind. You know, you're not going to be able to take it back. It happens a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah,
you know,
I think so too.
And you know, these are. I don't know what you do about that. I don't know what a social society can do about
it. As you guys are talking, I was looking for the crisis hotline phone number, which we'll post in the podcast. It's unfortunate I can't seem to find the phone number. I don't want to give out just some random phone number where like, oh, this is it. Well, I mean, think about it. Who's that guy that was on Ellen's show that just, you know, committed suicide?
That was a big deal, man. And I would never even heard of him, but actually one of his, I don't even know. I think one of his kids goes to the same school that one of my daughters does. It's a terrible situation.
I mean, just I'm like,
awful.
Terrible.
Yeah. So what rips up everything, and everybody's wondering like why that happened, you know, and you know, there's a lot of self-recrimination, and I don't know, it's terrible.
It's a situation where, look, if you need help, you know, call somebody. If you're in dire straits, call somebody, and you know, spend some time on the phone and talk to somebody about it and get through that piece in time. I'm just blown away by the fact that our friendly neighbors to the north would even remotely come to an idea. I know in Washington State we have death with dignity. So if you are in terminally ill, state, you can forecast when you think you need to go, versus a mental state. To me, it's like I mean, I'm only going to put this out there saying, is it a way for them to kind of like shave off? Are we talking about maybe shaving off some what they may consider dead weight? I mean, I mean, I'm not saying that people who are mentally ill aren't in a state. Maybe they just can't, they don't have the capacity anymore to sustain or help them. Maybe that may be the case. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. That would be a great show to do, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely a big issue, and it's every time you walk out of the door, you're confronted with it. So
this at this time of the hour, we get to do your own prediction. So I don't know who would like to start first, but your own prediction for 2023. We'll start. Whoever wants to go first, feel free. Whatever your prediction may be, and then we'll all.
Well, you did list one of these questions here, which I guess we haven't answered, but with that, which I really piqued my curiosity about the advance of AI.
Oh,
it's going to advance in this coming year, or over the next couple of years, and that's really a fascinating topic, because if you look at, for instance, in today's Times, there's an article about how Google is flipping out about this new CM, what is it called, the new way of the new search engine way of doing stuff.
Yeah,
that could really put it. That's the first thing I've heard of that could put a real dent in people's computer usage.
I wish I had my phone in here to look this up. So I'm not sure if I know about this. What?
Oh, this is a huge deal here. I mean, people are talking about it.
Not the CMGMT or whatever, the thing where you talk to it.
You talk to it.
What's the acronym for this thing?
I can't remember the acronym, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
I only got hit this like a week or 2 or 3 ago. My wife already knew about it. I haven't had a chance to really look into it. Well, but you're right. Some people seem very concerned about it already.
Well, it's not that it's just gonna. It's not necessarily good or bad at the moment, but it does augur a lot of change, because I mean, for instance, who's satisfied? Raise your hands out there in Radio Land, wherever you are, with the kind of Google searches that you've been doing on the internet of late. I mean, you can't get through the ads, no matter what kind of ad blocker you have. It's like you can't use Chrome anymore. It's just so ad driven that you can't find out the answer to things. You can find a million people who want to sell you something, but if you just say in, like, we were talking about the other day, like, well, who had a better career, Bobby Bonds or Alex Rodriguez among steroid users, right? So, we're trying to figure out who this was. So you put it in the internet, and you just got all this endless ESPN stuff about that, trying to sell you something. And then finally we used this thing, and it came out with this, the answer. It turned out that their career stats are very similar. So,
interesting.
But I mean, to me, that's a possible real change in social media, all kinds of media, because people are dissatisfied with the way the internet works, and I think that you should look at that. That might be a big difference.
I do have one thing on AI. I was reading something just this past week, and then I talked to some people a few weeks ago. The idea of, so like 2 weeks ago, everybody was downloading the little AI art generator and making their thumbnails of themselves. Did you guys see that? I made one with me with a Santa hat on it for the hell of it, but I didn't really end up using it. But anyway, so this was a big thing. So this particular piece of software, and I think there's dozens of them, it's artificial intelligence creating pictures of you. Well, there's also artificially generated music, artificially generated text, or things like that. So I had this one researcher on my show at one point. He was bringing up the point that, and I read this again today, that AI is probably the biggest source of content creation on the internet right now, because it's just easy to churn it out. So here's the question. So who gets the copyright on the content that is created by the AI? So Mark is a writer. And
we were just discussing this very issue today.
And what did you say? What was the answer? What did you guys think?
The answer is the lawyers are going to make it up. But
That's probably true.
but you know, what do I think should happen?
Yeah.
You know, as somebody who has a lot of content on the internet, which is constantly pirated and stuff like that, you know, I really don't know, because I mean, it depends. On some days I feel very generous and I think, well, it's kind of nice that people are using my stuff. And the other days when I'm feeling poor, I think like, well, how come these guys just steal this stuff? You know?
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm talking about, Mike. I mean, it's just,
That technology is also supposed to be able to, like, if you write something, be able to make sure that it's not plagiarizing your stuff versus someone actually going and copying your stuff and then using it. That technology is supposed to, from my understanding, supposed to be able to say, look, okay, it's copyright free, saying it hasn't took a line out of Pale Horse Rider book, out of the Pale Horse Rider book, or, you know, from any other book that you may have written, or even from a song that you may have written years ago. Parker, you know, it's, I mean, so that piece may be great, where maybe now you'll start getting credit for some of the stuff where maybe you weren't before, and saying, hey, look, okay, now, you know, it like in, you know, like music, if it BDSs or if it gets spun, you'll be able to get credit or get paid for said work that was used in a show or whatever the case might be. So,
well, let me just throw in one other thing. So the thing I was bringing up is like, so this guy, when he was a, I don't remember his title, but he's out of Baylor and he's a computer scientist. And the subject was, okay, if I create an AI and then that AI creates a piece of art or a story or a piece of music, not emulating somebody else's, but the AI creates this thing. Who gets a copyright? Does the AI get a copyright, or do I get the copyright? His argument as a scientist was that the creator of the AI would get the copyright, which is what I tend to think, but I'm open to.
Well, it depends on how the
AI
was created, I think. I mean,
right.
You know, what is the basis of the AI? Actually, you know, something that I would recommend, just kind of not completely, but I thought it was kind of interesting. There's a series on Netflix now called The Playlist, about the founding of Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really all about this, you know, and it's kind of a decent, you know, reasonably decent show. It's not a documentary; it's just a fictional film, but it's very close to what I guess happened. But it brings up a lot of issues like we're talking about, because I mean, for instance, are you happy to use Spotify if you know that the artist whose music is being used there is getting no money for that?
I don't like it. I actually don't really use Spotify. My daughters love it.
Well, I mean, you know, if you did, for instance,
I mean,
I don't like that.
A lot of people do use it, you know.
No, I don't think that artists are paid commensurate with their value through Spotify. No, I don't like that at all.
They don't. They're definitely not. I mean, you know, but
I mean, they're collecting some money from some streams, right? I mean, that's my understanding, that they're collecting some revenue from a streaming platform. But I don't know if
you're a big shot. If you're like, you know, Taylor Swift or somebody who I think she took her stuff offset. I mean, she's had a big bat, you know, Taylor Swift. I mean, I'm not that crazy about her music, but she does seem to think about some serious issues.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
So, you know, there are people like that. I mean, if you're like somebody huge, like you're Bruce Springsteen or something like that, you'll make a deal with Spotify because they want you as much as you want them. But if you're just sort of like, maybe didn't make that much, you know, it's not like a lot of bands we like didn't make that much money, you know.
Right.
You need the money. So if Spotify is using their stuff and they can see right there in black and white that they've had 20,000 streams this month, and they don't get any money for it. I mean, to me, that's sort of like, that's the kind of person who's like in the creative arts, so to speak, you know. I mean, that's a drag.
Yes.
So as we continue going through the show tonight, as we no longer have an astrologer at the radio show, we'll go with this astrologer. Nostradamus forecasted multiple. I mean, he did a little something. According to Nostradamus supporters, apparently his accuracy was 70%. That being said, he said he forecasted World War III. Will the war in Ukraine lead to a wider conflict? Yes or no?
Mark is shaking his head. Yes,
I think there's a definite possibility of that. Yes,
I agree.
because I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and the outs of a situation like that. I am not in the minds of the NATO commanders and Vladimir Putin and these kind of people like that. But it's once you start killing people, you're going to keep killing people. It's just the way it is until you're tired or until you don't have any other people. And then both of those sides are determined, and it already has. It's already happened. It's already there already been a couple of like mistakes, you know.
Mhm.
It's inevitable that it'll happen. So I think I feel I'm not hoping this happens, but I mean I fear it. I do fear that.
Yeah, me too. I at the beginning of the Ukraine Russia thing, some of the things I said about were very unpopular, and I thought it was a much more complex issue than the way it was being portrayed. And first of all, I stand with the people of Ukraine and of Russia. So I hate that this thing has happened. I think definitely the wheels could fall off and it gets worse. But I do think it's a proxy war, and I think it's a very complex situation. I don't think this had to happen, and I think there was a push. The possibility of putting Ukraine in NATO was just something that Russia was never going to allow to happen, and that wasn't like a secret. So, but that all aside, yeah, I mean, even Kissinger, all roads lead to Kissinger, right? Back in what is April,
still alive,
right? And I'm not a fan, so don't get me wrong. But even back in April or May, he was in Davos or somewhere, and he would put out he dropped the little crumb that, hey, you know what? Looking down the road, maybe Ukraine's going to have to cede some land to Russia so that we can kind of wrap this thing up. Well, clearly that didn't happen. Now we're down another 5, 6, 7 months, whatever it is. And he said again, just a week or two ago, that we need to try to find a way to wrap this up. So even guys like him, I think, no, it's like we're going to have to do something here to wrap this up, because if we don't, and it's not just the humanitarian crisis of the war itself, but it's all the things that come as a result of it: energy, food, fertilizer, because Ukraine grew a lot of grains. They were a big fertilizer manufacturing. It has a lot of repercussions.
That's why the Soviet Union felt they had to have Ukraine to begin with.
Right.
I mean, Stalin already killed 3 million people there.
That's right.
Starved them to death so he could collectivize the farms. I mean, this is not something without any history here, you know?
That's right.
It doesn't just come out of the blue. I mean, the Ruskies feel that they should have this territory. So they're the ones with more guns. I mean, I don't know. I think that some of the things that Putin was saying about the Nazis in the Ukraine may have actually had some truth to it. But
I think it did. And I'm not trying to be a Putin apologist.
Personally, that he got his degree in the Ukraine. Yeah. I interviewed David Duke, and he said that. So like, I mean, what's David Duke going to be doing going to the Ukraine to get a degree in I don't know what, but he's not going to go there. He's not going to Berkeley, California to get a degree. So it's I'm afraid of that. I think
I'm concerned too, Mario.
All right. So and with leading headlines recently, it looks like that could be the case. So as we continue on, all right, guys, those of the Catholic persuasion, are we looking at a new pope for 2023? And why? And will the new pontiff cause controversy?
What do you think, Mario?
Well, I mean, there have been reports that have said that the Pope would like to retire. So that would make 2 popes that are retired. That would be emeritus Pope, the 2 dudes chilling somewhere out in Vatican, somewhere in a house. Just
you're talking about Ratzinger and the current guy. Pardon me if I said his name wrong. I can't really remember. I don't follow.
Those 2 guys get in the same room. That won't work out too well. But No, I don't understand. I mean, it's like the same thing with the Supreme Court. I mean, why are these people on there for their whole life? It's crazy.
That's a
You
good
know,
point.
why can't they just retire like everybody else? So and the fact that the Pope wants to step down, I mean, how old is he? He's like,
Well,
it's probably taxing being the Pope.
and guys, I've got to be honest. I'm woefully not knowledgeable enough on this one. So, is the Pope saying that he wants us to step down?
There were reports during the 2022 headlines that he had mentioned possibly retiring, but and that was my question. It's out there, and it is a question on the ether that people are like, is this going to happen in 2023? Are we looking at a new pontiff coming to the Catholic Church, and will this be the last pontiff is what they're asking.
Well, it's up to the Opus Dei, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the one thing I do know about this guy is that he's a Jesuit and all that, and
It's a Jesuit. I mean,
so-
you got to watch him.
I guess it's I haven't put enough time into that thing yet, so I can't really say. So I'm not trying to cop out on this one. I just don't know enough on this.
No,
one.
you're not copying out. Yes or no? You think there's going to be a new pope or not?
No.
You think he's going to
No.
be?
If I had to guess, I'm flipping a coin. I don't think so.
Okay.
No,
As long as the guy's healthy, I don't think so.
yeah, and it depends on if they've chosen a new person yet. It's really
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, and
it doesn't like a lightning bolt from God hits them in the head. I mean, it's politics like anything else.
And maybe he decides to take the fall for some of the other things within the church. Maybe, okay, here's guys, I'll take one for the team and I'll step down. Then you guys can twist the story the way you want to do it. We're trying to make amends here. And, so maybe there's something like that going on. I don't know.
And that could be the case too. I mean, there may be still some things that may be going on behind the scenes in the Catholic Church.
Sure.
Not that I
Really?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Guys, I think we hit the part of the evening where I think Parker may love this question. The Black Book from Epstein. Are we going to see? Are we going to see some of the alleged names come out of this book, or are we going down in history as a JFK situation? Nobody knows who's in that book.
Let me just say this. No. Ghislaine, how long has she been in jail now? A year, 6 months, 8 months, whatever? What has happened to her? Nothing, but except she's in jail. We're not really hearing much about it. The Black Book, I don't think, I know there's one that floats around. I don't know if that's legitimate or not. You guys have probably seen it, but this takes us back to the beginning of the show. And you guys, I kind of said, if I was going to make a prediction, I said, Sam Bankman-Fried did not kill himself. I think it's going to be the same thing with FTX. I think that guy's probably got an extinction level event perhaps headed his way for the same reasons. It's like there was a lot of people involved in what he was doing. It wasn't just him. So I don't think we'll ever see what's going on in the Black Book with Epstein. And I think that the FTX scandal will never know the full extent of what was going on there and what that money was being used for and who all had party of it. So I think he's the next Epstein.
Oh man,
I like that. I go with that.
That's what I think.
It's a good. Well, it's a good. I mean, I'm telling you, there are a lot of strange things around that case. A lot of strange,
100%.
Especially the guy waives extradition. He, all that's. I mean, like, why would you do? I mean, if you want to go to jail, I mean, you want to go to jail. You're going to go to jail anyhow. You want to go sooner? I mean, I don't know. But just it's kind of a lot of contradictory kind of things there. Yeah. But I think about Epstein is, if there's a book, someone's got it, and it might come out. And I personally would love to see who's in there,
For sure.
You guys want to make predictions and you want to put some names down on it? You want to put some names out there, guys?
I mean, just look at who he's been who he took a picture with over the past 10 years.
And it was most people.
I'm not. Obama wasn't in any pictures with him, so I guess he didn't show up there. Maybe he's young enough not to have to do that. But
let me just say one other thing interesting about Epstein is people don't talk about this very much, but he was very much into transhumanism. He was like a people collector. He wanted to be in amongst the influential celebrity types, politicians, but he also gave a lot of money to scientific research. So there was a bunch of scientists who were like, "Oh my God, people are going to know I was hanging out with Epstein." But he was very much into, he had a little transhumanist bent to him, and that was part of genetic manipulation, was part of his interest. And so I think I think, you know, we can all talk about celebrities being in there and, you know, and Bill Clinton or whomever else, but that may not be the most interesting part of what's in that book. And that's why I don't think we'll ever really see it.
That's why I'd like to see what's in there, because, you know,
I'm with you.
But on the other hand, what's transhumanism, by the way?
This, just Michael's parte. He knows the whole thing. This is
the attempt to extend life, your own life, and this ties into eugenics and the World Economic Forum and all this. Is like, okay, those of us who just have a regular amount of wealth, we don't necessarily want to live forever. But if I was a rich guy, I want to live as long as I possibly can. So
I'm not, even if I was a zillionaire, I wouldn't book one of those seats on that Elon Musk rocket ship to go where. But I mean, you know, but yeah, I mean, if I was in my power, that I was healthy enough and I wanted to live another 20 years, yeah, that would definitely be something.
So essentially, that's what transhumanism is this radical extension of life expectancy and trying to kind of various methods.
What methods? Like,
well, genetic manipulation, and the farthest, the most far out, and I think the creepiest is the idea that you just live in the cloud or you live on a drive or something somewhere. So listen, nobody that got frozen with their head in a jar over here, you know, and cryogenic land, I don't think that's ever going to work.
Disney's not walking around as far as I can see. You know who also froze his body? Ted Williams, the baseball player.
That's right. Yes.
You know, it's strange, you know, when you look at that list of people that did that.
But there are methods that you know, before you're dead, that they can try to. And listen, this is radio, so I'm not going to get into all of it. But like Epstein, you know, his sperm, I think, was donated to various things. I mean, the guy, you know, a narcissist, a crazy narcissist with a lot of money.
Young girls, what do the young girls have to do with that then?
No. I'm not saying. I'm just saying that there was an interest in prolonging life, and listen, I'm this guy. Like, I want to keep living, and I'm making a very elementary comparison here. But what I'm saying is, these guys were involved in research. It's like a science fiction movie, man. It's like, I'm rich, I want to live forever, and some of these people aren't necessary.
I get the meme. I like it. You know, I just feel that it'll be great to have the book just to see.
Oh, I agree with you, brother. I just don't think it's going to happen.
So we get close.
I could be wrong.
Will we know that they're probably powerful people?
How about that?
What's that?
You want to forge one of these books and send it around so people think that this might be real? You know,
Mark, I think that's probably already been done. I mean, the one that I've seen with all the people's numbers and stuff, I don't know if that's a real one or not. I think that probably some of the people that are in the one that you can find on the internet is probably got some of the real people that hung out with the guy. And it's kind of common knowledge. I mean, he loved celebrities. He loved politicians. He loved, you know, being in the mix. And so
he was definitely diversified, right? He definitely had his hands in multiple different types of, as you said, you know, politicians, celebrities, scientists. He definitely was trying to maximize his portfolio as much as possible.
Bill Gates was hanging out with the guy, and listen, this is one of the richest men in the world, but he still would hang out with Epstein. So Epstein would donate money to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or whatever. And so when you're a rich guy and you're giving money to the various foundations or causes, you get a lot of friends.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that was a showstopper back in the day.
Or renting out the girls, though.
There's that too. And I definitely also think, I'll just say it, man. I think, he was definitely, that was part of his business, was espionage.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you need dirt on so-and-somebody. Let's invite him down to the island and let's get pictures of so-and-so intoxicated with young women. I mean, he was bad news, man, big time. And that made his life something that we need to get out of here. It's like, he knew too much.
Well, I mean, the only thing that makes me think that it happened the way people said, which I don't believe at all, is that it's so dumb
Of course.
that he was going to do that. I mean, that it might actually be true. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
Just every once in a while, I think like, well, it's just so. I mean, if I was trying to kill him, why would I do that? Unless I really needed to get rid of him.
Well, I think they did it because they knew nothing would ever come of it. These, the people that would want him dead, the same people that would probably want SBF dead, they're pretty much beyond anything happening to them. And especially if there's a whole lot of us that all have connections to the same guy, it's like, I don't really like you, but I got your back on this one, man, because I'm on that list too.
That makes sense.
I mean, maybe Epstein killed himself, but I find that hard to believe. And Cyril Wecht, showed these ligature marks on his neck, which to me do not look like, the marks of a sheep.
Strangulation.
Now, I do have friends that think, I do think he killed himself. I absolutely don't. I think that, he was offed by somebody, but
I mean,
they might be wrong.
They might have given him a choice. It's either us or you, It's
That's right. That's right.
Maybe he went to that's the circumstances of how his timely death came. It's unfortunate that the cameras went malfunctioned and
somebody went to sleep, and
it's just is this a?
I know it's ridiculous.
As we get closer to wrapping things up here, I got to ask you guys, because we did talk about the AI technology. Do you believe that in 2023 we're going to start seeing AI laws for these droids? Or
oh yeah, definitely, that's coming for sure.
I mean, what is that, Skynet? Is that what that was in Terminator?
Well, what do you mean by this exactly? About the
AI laws? Like robots having laws that, if they kill somebody, that they take the robot, and are these robots going to live in their own AI laws where they're like, they cannot kill human, take over human, life, terminate humans, things of that nature? Are they going to program laws into these droids?
Well, I don't know if they programmed laws. Well, they will. But this gets back to our earlier thing. It's like, so we have to define what the AI is. And I think this is the question now, because earlier this year, when Mark was talking about the Google thing, I thought he was going to go a different direction. There was a Google AI, and the guy that worked with it came out and said that I believe that this AI is sentient. It has the emotional complexity along with incredible intelligence, but emotionally, it's like a 7 or 8 year old. That guy ends up getting laid off from Google. Do you guys remember this from in the summer or late summer?
I don't remember, but it sounds.
I tried to get him on my show, and he declined politely. But it was kind of a story for a minute. And then I was telling you about the other thing. So if an AI creates a piece of art, who gets a copyright on the piece of art? So all of this has to do with what level of sentience or consciousness does the AI have, and then who's responsible for that? And if you're gonna, this is late night, so I'll just say it. If you're creating androids or AI in a physical form, which they've already been doing for a while, and I don't know how advanced these things are. They look fake to me. But if you create androids for sexual gratification, you're living with these things. I mean, is there going to be a exploitation laws applied to that? If that were a human being and you were doing these that you kept around, certainly that would be exploitation. So these are heady questions. I love these kind of questions.
That's a similar case. If a human being, a slave, and having a machine is two different things, right? Completely.
Yes, but it is an interesting question.
Runner, right? You saw Blade Runner. That's the moral conundrum. I mean, are these things, are they human beings if they feel like human beings, or are they not human beings because human beings made them? So, that's why guys like Harrison Ford in that movie have jobs. They go and they kill these things. But, it's getting to that point that what they call singularity, where when that hits, that'll be an interesting time. It'll be an interesting time to be on the radio doing a conspiracy show for sure.
We'll be here. These are the kind of questions I love.
Because when we talk about it, if you're talking about having a droid or a robot as a virtual partner. I mean, I will tell you this. I was going through the social world's media, and on the gram, I believe I saw AI virtual girlfriend was the thing. I don't know why that pulled up. Oh, that's right. It pulled up because obviously
Than a blow up doll. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, it's
These
different.
would be less expensive.
Well, what about the rights to blow up dolls? Don't they have rights?
But seriously, the movie Her. And so early in the show, you guys, I don't mean to derail you, Mario, but you're making a good point. I was thinking, okay, so I don't remember who it was the other day that got cat. Oh, I remember. It was a terrible story. A young man was being catfished by.
Yeah.
Anyway, he commits suicide because the person on the other end who's pretending to be a woman or a young girl or whatever, because this young man was a teenager. They threatened to show pictures of him that he had sent to this person that he thought was a girl. But in my mind, I start thinking, so what happens when AI becomes the catfisher?
Well, it probably already is in a lot of ways. I mean,
that's what maybe.
I mean, well,
here's what I will tell you now.
Edging towards just the sheer existence of pornography.
The virtual world, yes. And here's the other thing too. I think Apple did an update recently where you now under the child, like if you have someone who is a minor, you can put things onto the phone without their knowledge that will protect them from actually sending out any graphic information out to the ether, which is fantastic out there.
Yes.
So that's a huge plus. Now, getting back to the AI dating, catfishing, it is big right now. And what's crazy, and we can go through this for hours. The network news did a huge show on the pull strings of what's the biggest scam right now. Puppies. Everyone wants a new dog. And that's the biggest scam of, 2022 is the whole virtual, like, oh yeah, we got these dogs, blah, blah, blah. Set up the website, the whole 9 yards. You go to get the puppy, no dog. The same thing with the catfish. I feel bad for that gentleman who passed away. It's the same thing as that one dude who played football who thought he had the girlfriend, but they didn't.
The guy from Notre Dame.
Yeah. Terrible.
Really? I mean,
Yep.
There should be laws for it. I mean, obviously things have changed now, but to go down these roads through the virtual AI, catfishing and dating and virtual blow up dolls and this and that and the other thing. Look, how one deals with their life in regards to being with somebody has relatively changed. There are so many bots out there. It is a zoo, period, in regards to dating, Facebook, all these social webs, and they don't give two cares because at the end of the day, the social media platform is pulling that bar down and just going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So every time we sign up for free social media, remember, we are contributing to that. So
You are the product.
we are the product. Yes.
Yeah. We're eating of ourselves.
You guys, any personal? You guys want to do one last? What's your prediction? A solo prediction that we didn't get to do one, but if you had to predict something as a wild card, what is your one prediction for 2023?
I told you mine. So,
What did you say?
well, I think that SBF has got a short life expectancy.
That's his.
Well, that's a good one. I say that.
And I don't wish him bad, even though I think he's a terrible human being.
Well, he's an idiot, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm being caught without a prediction here. I mean, my prediction is as Mr. T said in Rocky 3. They asked him, "Do you have any predictions?" And he said, "Yeah, pain."
Wow, that's pretty good, actually.
I mean, yes. That is a great one.
And in the upcoming years, in the upcoming 2023, I think that the economy will sort of bounce back, and because I think that mortgage rates are not going to keep going up. For
They
instance,
can't.
that's a prediction. Well, hey man,
I mean, they could, but
they used to be 10%. So I mean, I think they're not going to go up anymore. I think there's going to be some correction in that.
I think he's talking about his selling his house. Remember?
well, I hope you do.
I'm
I
not
hope
selling
you.
my house.
Well, I think you probably shouldn't right now. I mean, if we're going to talk economics, I will just throw this in the mix because I have to talk economics a lot on my other show. I do think there will be 3 more months of basis point increases. I think you'll get 50, 50, 25, and then they're going to have to stop because
Yeah, they're stopping. They have to because it's
they
now
have to, man.
bad for
But
business.
I don't. It ain't going to be January. I think it'll be. I think it'll be April. Maybe June. Maybe June.
Wow.
Yeah, because like
Let's date.
once. I mean, when it was like 2% or 1%, I mean, money was flowing around.
They should have stepped in 2 years ago, not this year.
Well, now they're trying to overcompensate for previous mistakes. So, like
Right.
And it depends on whether or not. I don't know what this country would be like if they didn't have the Federal Reserve thing, setting these interest rates. I don't know what the economy would be like. I mean, I don't know if it'll necessarily be better or worse. I mean, what do you think?
Right. I'm
So-
not a huge fan of the Fed. Honestly, I'm a Ron Paul guy. It's like audit the Fed, and it ain't never gonna happen.
No, it's never going to happen. Well, why?
No.
9/11 happened, right? Is that what someone said?
But but I think that there's management, there's social control, and there's financial management, and these things. It takes a while to develop, but I think in this year you're going to see a sort of loosening up of the economy. I don't know if that's good or bad. One thing I do think is one of the weird trends is the betting. For instance, do you have legal betting in your state, in Texas?
I
They
don't live here. I'm not sure what the status is on that.
Sports betting, right? You
Yep.
can bet. So now they've legalized marijuana and they have sports betting. I mean, you cannot watch the basketball game without 15 commercials
Yep.
about how to, and you can bet on the game and you could just, you have your telephone there. So there's got to be more money around to keep these major industries like gambling, alive.
A couple of years ago, probably 2016 or something. Okay, so that's 5 or 6 years ago or something. Because I like watching football. I'm not a huge sports geek, but I love watching football. And I was speaking to this guy, and I don't remember his name. I wish I did. But he was basically saying, he goes, Michael, what do you think is the biggest source of income for organized crime these days? And he said that it is betting on sports. It represents billions and billions of dollars, and that's just on the organized crime side. So, to your point, I mean,
the state taking over the job of organized crime. It's like,
bam, ladies and gentlemen, that's
pushing it. So I mean,
what it seems like.
Well, yeah, New York State is like they're in charge, at least where I live, and you cannot get away from this stuff. I mean, I have nothing against gambling. I'm not a big Vegas fan, but but I mean, people are spending a lot of money on this that they don't have, so something's got to give.
Ooh, I'm going to say for myself, if we're going to go for predictions, we're going to continue to find more bodies come out of Lake Mead. More bodies for 2023 coming out of Lake Mead. And I think that it will be also a year for expansion for this radio show.
Yay. All right.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so, Mario.
Yeah. So,
well, you deserve it, Mario. You should be worldwide.
Yeah, right. I mean,
we
need more distribution. We got to start calling all these gambling places. No, it's crazy because I know someone who works for DraftKings, and those guys are just busy, producing content like
all these things that used to be against the law, like 2 years ago.
And it's like download the app. I mean, it is like, as you said, it's in your face now. 2-3 commercials minimum in a spot set. You're like, whoa, wait, DraftKings. Why am I seeing these gambling apps just predominant, MGM, whoever, they're just blatantly out there now. I mean, you go down to your local casino, and one of the big major casinos has an app where they have affiliated themselves with. So now that you can gamble online, which is wild to me. But I have my own theory about gambling. Strippers and gambling their ROI is not good. So I just stay away from it,
Well, it's I just think of the state's movement and the movement of the state into previously illegal activities is a major change over the past, I mean, in the past few years, because of all these different positions that the state has taken on things that they used to put you in jail for.
Public partnership.
They're enabling it, and I don't know what the final upshot of it is. But if you're somebody that's worried about the moral fiber of the society, it might concern you, a little bit, because, I mean, I'm an easygoing guy. I mean, I'm a live and let live kind of guy. But you don't hear. Speaking of the church, why aren't they against this kind of stuff? It's moral turpitude.
That's a whole nother topic for another day. But I will tell you this: if they continue to decriminalize like the gambling situation, what's next? Like prostitution, are they going to legalize that as well? And have it as another generating revenue thing for the government to tax, and to if that's something that they're
legal in the EU, I mean, why not do it here?
Yeah. Well, as we wrap things up from the Pacific Northwest, the East Coast, and somewhere in Texas,
and then back to LA in a couple of days.
Oh man, are you staying there for New Year's? Or are you going to be home for?
No, I'll be back in LA in just a couple of days. So.
What are you guys doing for New Year's? I guess we should ask.
I'm watching football during the day because TCU, Texas Christian University, my alma mater, is in the final.
TCU, all right. Well, I'm rooting for you guys.
Well, you'll know what the score is because when this show airs.
Yeah. I'm not partying. I'm not going out. I'm gonna be at work the next day. So.
Yeah. What about you, Mark? Are you just hanging out?
A friend of mine. I usually stay home, but I mean, a friend of mine invited me to a party. And I figured, well, why not? I haven't been to a party on New Year's Eve in a long, long time.
Right on.
I think I'm going to go just for the heck of it.
Well, the big tradition for us is
I'm not a big drinker, so I feel I can survive it.
Yeah, we'll watch for us. It's the Space Needle. We'll watch the Space Needle do the countdown and then call it a night. So.
Mario, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting us. I always enjoy this, and I love you guys. I know that sounds corny, but I'm serious. I wish you both a wonderful 2023, and to all of your listeners.
Yes,
I don't think it sounds corny. It sounds great.
Yeah, no, it's always been a pleasure.
Make your faces is a lot of fun, and hearing what you got to say, it's great.
As we wrap things up on the Pacific Northwest, I'd like to thank our guest. Michael Parker, Mark Jacobson, again, thank you so much for doing this as our new tradition as we've done. And if you want to hear the answers from last year, we'll have them posted. I'll cut them up and I'll send them to you guys so we can go back and do the show so we can hear them as well. So they will be available on the podcast platforms out there. Again, thank you to our guest. Have a wonderful 2023. We'll see you guys somewhere in Q1, I'm sure.
Down the road.
I love it.
All right. See you.